A former Chief Justice of the Gambia, Justice Emmanuel Fagbinle, has said that the extradition of Abba Kyari to the United States would not be automatic. Now, according to him, his extradition is subject to proper judicial process. He says it is the court pronouncement that could hand him over for extradition, without which his extradition could not be possible. Extradition has a judicial process between two countries that have treaties, in this case between the United States and Nigeria. And until the completion of judicial process or procedure binding both countries, Abba Kyari may not be heading to the United States anytime soon. The Deputy Commissioner of Police, Abba Kyari, was suspended to give room for investigations following allegations against him by the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the United States. So joining me now via Zoom from Abuja is human rights lawyer and member of the Lincoln's Inn, London, Dr. Daniel Bwala. Dr. Bwala, it's good to have you join me this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Now, this case, some people will see it as really complex. Others who have a great understanding, may see it as really simple. Make us understand either side. Is this case too complex, or is it just a simple thing that we need to have an idea of?
I like the way you framed the question. The answer is actually in the same way you asked the question. It can both be simple or complex depending on the response you get from the host country. So again, it is a simple procedure if the government is willing and is ready and excited about turning the Abba Kyari to the United States. Because internationally there are three procedures. There is one that is called extradition, which is consistent with treaty based on agreement. And understandably, Nigeria has treaty with the US, but that will take judicial means, which means that the Attorney General will have to go to court and file for the extradition. That may, and then the defendant, or rather the person seeking to be extradited, might also need to object to whether or not he feels it is appropriate for him to be extradited. That process might now make it a little bit difficult because it will take time. But the part that is simple is that there are other procedures recognized by law and some not recognized. One is called rendition. The second one is called extraordinary rendition. Rendition is the process of extradition without the judicial process. So for example, if you have mutual legal assistance with that country, you can decide to turn the person up to the law enforcement of that country without having to go to court. It's called rendition. Extraordinary rendition is in a situation where there is no treaty between the two countries and the dominant country wants to exercise dominance power. So you can intimidate the other country, can even use force where necessary. But extraordinary rendition is rejected by the International Convention, international law, because when it was introduced or when the concept was developed was during the administration of President Bill Clinton, when the US, CIA, and some of their law enforcement were using force to take suspects from one location to the other for the purposes of interrogating and torturing them. So in all cases where you have extraordinary rendition, there must be element of torture, there must be element of hard interrogation, which is rejected by the international community. But there is a rendition which is not extraordinary. It is another means by which nations can apply mutual legal assistance to turn over that person without having to go through the court. So that is why I said it can both be simple and difficult depending on how the host country is intending to deal with the matter. And I do not think in Nigeria the government will be in a hurry to just turn him over until first the police comes out with their report. If the report indicts him, then the Nigerian government can decide either of these two, either to prosecute him for the offenses that relates to Nigeria, and after he's convicted, then they can turn him over to the US, or they can decide to turn him over to the US without prejudice to the offense that they have found him guilty of. Because again, the nature of the offense will determine how soon he's extradited or not.
All right, now let's enlighten us here a little bit. When treaties are signed, procedures and the issue of understanding is kicked in and everything is spelled out. Now, in this case between Nigeria and the United States, the treaty has been signed since the 30s as it is. But when the Attorney General of the Federation is saying that the courts will have to decide What is the court deciding when the treaties are clear between Nigeria and the United States in the case of extradition? Can you enlighten us from that window?
So it is the treaty that actually provides for that process of trying the person in court, because the extradition treaty is to the effect that the person that you are seeking to extradite to another country must first be taken to the judicial, through the crucible of judicial process in your home country. So if a request, for example, under the treaty, if a request is submitted by the U.S. government to the Attorney General, usually it's a communication between both Attorney General. So Attorney General of the United States sends the request for extradition to the Attorney General of Nigeria. Attorney General will look at the request, then he will approach either the Magistrate Court or the Federal High Court. Now, when he approaches the court, his argument will be that XYZ or A has now been indicted for such and so offense, and under the treaty agreement we have signed with the United States, we can turn over each and every individual of our countries for the purpose of dealing with crime, locating of those individuals. Now, the Nigerian judicial system will look at whether or not there is merit. And the reason why treaty established the judicial process is that so that tyrannical government do not exact their power of tyranny on their citizens simply because they want to have some political expediency or for the purposes of political exchange. So there has to be a judicial means of determining whether or not the offense alleged requires or deserves extradition. So it is actually the extradition treaty that provides for the judicial administrative procedure of turning the person over to the next country.
All right. Now, the call for a 10-day pretrial detention of Abba Kyari, what is the implication of that, and how does this relate to the extradition process?
Well, it's optional. Pretrial detention, because, again, like I said, you look at the offense alleged. So if, for example, the offense is a heinous crime, which comes under the universal principle of the United States, and heinous crimes under that universal principle are crimes that are considered like terrorism or maybe still a child slavery. So if the offense falls under that, then the government of Nigeria can begin to exercise some of this procedure for pretrial detention to be sure that the alleged accused person does not escape justice. But in this case, the offense that is alleged is wire fraud, which falls under the protective principles of the United States. And that one, the offense usually is either wire fraud or you're obstructing the smooth administration of the U.S. government. And wire fraud falls under U.S. national security because the funds that was alleged to have been embezzled or siphoned or stolen by a hush puppy, so to speak, are some of the funds fall within the national security project of the U.S. government. So it will not, in this circumstance, based on the alleged offense, it will not require for any pretrial detention. Detention usually is only applied if the accused person will interfere with the investigation or will evade justice. But I don't think the profile of the person in question will require for him to be detained before he's taken to the U.S. government. And at the end of the day, it may not go. Let me tell you, my brother, there is a question people haven't answered. I have been asking the question because when this thing broke out, I was in New York, and understanding the way intelligence works, I asked the question, could it be that the alleged offense may have been committed because of sting operation by the law enforcement? Because sting operation is one of those procedures where the person alleged to have committed the offense may have actually committed the offense legally for the purposes of discovering criminal cartel. So sting operation, usually when it is conducted, the agent that they send like a spy can do everything that is being committed by the alleged offenders or the suspects or the criminals. So we don't know what the report of the Nigerian police will come. If it is a product of sting operation, then the FBI didn't do good to Nigeria by simply announcing for his arrest without first comparing with their Nigerian counterpart whether his link to those crimes are part of sting operation. But again, that is not conclusive proof. I just asked the question because even in America, when they send agents for the purpose of discovering criminal cartels, this kind of scenarios will happen. And if it does happen, then that offense, he will be exonerated from it because it is an offense that is committed for the purpose of discovering criminal cartel.
What a way to look at these issues. It's good you're giving us perspectives to look at the possibilities and dynamics of issues like this, which makes it even more complex. Now, a lot of persons have said that that is not just Abba Kyari that is on trial here, that the Nigerian police as a whole is on trial when it comes to how they approach this issue. What do you say about that?
Yeah, if, for example, the alleged offense is finally confirmed to have been committed by Abba Kyari, then the Nigerian police is under trial. As a matter of fact, the government of Nigeria may not be willing to surrender him to the U.S. government, because that may uncover, it's just like the Emirates scandal, it may uncover some bigger and deeper mess for the Nigerian police. So Nigerian government would rather that they deal with the situation locally, if it is true, because number one, he's a spy cop. Number two, he is one of a kind. He's 1 in a million in the police system. So if somebody like that would go down in crime, then certainly the Nigerian police will now be profiled to be under trial, and that may lead to a major reform in the Nigerian police. Again, based on the criminal justice system, he is innocent until he's proven guilty. And at this point, he has not even been charged to the court in Nigeria. He is mentioned in the U.S., an order for his arrest is made, but I do not think he is joined as an accused person in the U.S. court.
All right. Now, from the perspective you just looked at it from, is being a super cop and someone who is a spy cop and all of that, also, if he is sent, maybe it is not just about this trial. So many other bigger issues can come up which we may not even have seen yet. If one sees it plainly from that perspective, would one conclude that maybe Nigeria may not be ready to hand him over for extradition?
Yeah, because number one, there are even three elements of it. The element number one is the willingness of the Nigerian government, and that will depend on their findings, whether the offense is that which they will expose the country to ridicule, or they will deal with it locally. That's one element. The second element is the judicial system, which the Nigerian government cannot control, the U.S. government cannot control, because a fair trial must be conducted. A fair trial is a trial where both parties are heard. You remember the case of Kashimu. It didn't happen just so fast. Even if a terrorist is discovered in Nigeria, it can't be that easy. How much more a spy cop? Then the third element is the U.S. So, for example, if the U.S. government is so desirous of arresting him, and they see that this type of things are likely to delay, they may apply the extraordinary rendition by monitoring his movement. And one day you will just hear he has disappeared, and you will be wondering what happened. So these are some of the things that dominant countries do. But I don't think they will want to destroy the relationship they have with Nigeria. Nigeria is pivotal to the success of U.S. And Nigeria also cannot succeed without the U.S. government, because 85% of all our intelligence and law enforcement training is not concluded until they are trained by the FBI.
Interesting. Looking at this from that perspective, especially when it comes to the issue of diplomatic and bilateral relations, of course, everyone is going to guard it jealously to see how we keep this going. But how will this impact on bilateral relations if it is not handled well?
As it stands now, everything is going well, because one, when he was mentioned in the court document and an order for his arrest was issued, the next thing we find was that the U.S. FBI agent were in Nigeria, and they had a meeting with the IG of police. So Nigeria was not running away, but did not, evade having a meeting with them. They had a meeting. Immediately after the meeting, we heard that the IG of police suspended him and then contacted the Police Service Commission, formed a committee to deal with the matter. So the way things are going, I think U.S. will be excited. The Nigerian government is prompt in their request for the purposes of extradition. So it will not affect the bilateral relationship. But assuming, if at the end of this investigation by the police now finds that he has not committed any offense, and it is clear from the face value that he has committed an offense based on the U.S. law, then that might be a problem for the Nigerian government unless they can punish. So the only excuse the Nigerian government can give to the United States government is to say that that crime that he was alleged to have committed was part of a sting operation. And let me tell you, quite frankly, have you wondered why he's oftentimes seen with celebrities, people who flaunt their wealth without having to explain the source of their wealth. This is how you know when agents are investigating, because you cannot successfully gather intelligence on criminal cartel until you get your agent to mingle with them, infiltrate the system, in fact commit the crimes with them, because you are taking your time to discover the extent of the criminal linkage and collaboration. So the only excuse the Nigerian government can give is to say it was a product of a sting operation. Anything other than that might be very, very difficult to convince the US government, because again, the FBI did not just sleep and wake up the way some of our law enforcement do investigation. They will take however long. That's why anytime they present an accused person with evidence, the next thing you hear, the person is asking for plea bargain. Because what they will present to you will be such that it will be impracticable and very difficult for you to defend. And I'm sure that in this case, imagine from 2020, when Hush Puppy was arrested, until 2021, before the court document was released, they may have done a thorough investigation. So it will be extremely difficult. It will be extremely difficult for Nigeria to, the Nigerian government to just throw this thing out of, or rather sweep it under the carpet.
All right. Now, if we see from that explanation you brought now, seeing it as a sting operation, for instance, we're just creating scenarios like you have said. If that comes up, would there be possibility of interpreting it to mean that the government has likeness for him and is shielding him from prosecution? Is that a likelihood too?
Yeah, the US government will interpret that, but it is not just enough for Nigerian government to say it's a product of sting operation without providing proofs. So if you say it's a product of a sting operation, you must provide intelligence and document that will trace it back to when this investigation started. So it will not be that a crime is committed and you are trying to cover it, because there must be some document to say that at so time, long before his link to that person started, there is a communication where it says that certain investigations should be carried out on these individuals, and these are the modalities. This is the approval for the sting operation, and these are steps taken. So if Nigeria is able to furnish the US government with documents that would trace to the starting of the operation, which must be long before the alleged crime was committed, then that will be fine. But if you just say it's a product of sting operation without furnishing facts and figures that also will inform the US government to look at it, forensically, whether or not that is true, I don't think the US government will just take it because you say it. And in fact, if it is a product of sting operation, the US government might require to even apologize to Nigeria, because what it means is that by busting that operation, it will affect so many other sting operations ongoing in the country. So it is not just to say it. You have to furnish it with proofs, evidence that can be traced.
All right. The subject is Abba Kyari seen as very central to issues of national security concerning his position and some of the cases that he's been handling. Is it likely, or is it possible, also for Nigeria to request to try the case locally, if at all?
No, generally they don't, because even if it were to be the American citizen, in fact, that is the part that people criticize the US. Despite the treaty, if a US citizen commits a crime, no matter how heinous the crime is, they can never turn their citizen to you to try. They will promise you that they will try the person to the letter, and they will prove to you that they are actually pursuing the case by trying to convict him, but they won't just hand him over. Now that's one. But on the Nigerian side, I don't think it will be just that easy to turn him over, because you must first, if the product of this investigation by the panel setup, they are able to elicit information leading to crimes committed that are under our law. The requirement is that before you turn him over, you have to try him and convict him for the offense committed that has to for the offenses that contravene the laws of Nigeria. It is after he's convicted, then you can now send him. In fact, in some cases, some countries, what they do, they convict you, you serve the sentence, and after you serve the sentence, before they extradite. But if the dominant country, like in the case of US, do not believe in the justice system in Nigeria, they will make a case that, look, we don't believe, even if you are going to try him for this offense, that this trial will finish on time or that justice will be seen. And once they're able to punish that fact, the Nigerian government will have to trust the agreement, the extradition agreement, and turn him over. But from the way I'm looking at it, extradition is very unlikely in the short term. Extradition will definitely have to be in the long term.
Wow. All right. Dr. Daniel Bwala, thank you so much for your insight into these issues. There are legal issues, there are social issues, there may also be political issues around it, so it makes it a little more complex. But thank you for breaking it down for understanding.
Thank you, as always.
Thank you.